Today we will start with our first topic, which is caste in India. So, the basic thing which come to your mind when I say caste is what? Any of the basic thing which comes to your mind. Basis of community. How many of you are aware with a term called stratification? Exactly, what is stratification? Fragmentation. Division. Okay. So you see that, we are different. Everyone who is present in this classroom is different from each other in some way. Now, what are the ways in which anyone is different? Maybe it can be the age, it can be gender, it can be ethnicity. Okay, Bihari pichhade honge, hai na, Marathi aage honge. Okay, anyway, in this kind of some way of classification is always there when we perceive that we are different from each other. So that basis of difference can be age, gender, geography, ethnicity, language, isn't it? Food habit, veg, non-veg. Yesterday, maybe in this week, there was the statement by Prime Minister Modi that Tejasvi Yadav eat machli during Navratri. Okay, so you see that eating non-veg is not considered good. So this can also be a basis of classification. So such basis of classification has existed since the beginning. And previously in the hunting and gathering society, the only basis of such classification was age and gender, isn't it? So the age-based society, where the age is given the primacy over any other thing, it is called gerontocratic society. Gerontocracy समझते हैं ना आप लोग? Gerontocratic society where age is the most important factor and it is perceived that those people who are aging has more wisdom. So such kind of society is often called gerontocratic society. As against this, why there is a need of classification first of all? See, what is politics? If I ask what is the basic definition of politics, then what would you say? Distribution of power in the society? Distribution of resources in the society? Isn't it? So the basis of classification is for there to be resource to be distributed in order to take decisions. So this is the basis on which everything in the society is distributed. Now, as you have read in the history, in the Indus Valley civilization, or for that matter, any other civilization, that classification existed since the beginning in the society. And in this case, in our Indian society, three types of classification existed. One, who can assoce to the god, who can pray to the god. Those who prayed to the god were considered as Brahmins. Those who can pray to the god so that God will reciprocate to the prayer. See, if we pray to the God, what is the basis of religion in this case? There are many things which we cannot explain as of now, isn't it? As a child, when we were 5, 6 old, we always used to look at our parents to explain the things. So in the ancient society, when science was not there, everybody looked for some supernatural force so that everything can be explained. For example, lightning, drought, floods. And those who can propitiate these to these supernatural entity were considered most superior. So the qualification that was needed, that you must have a good singing voice, or at least you can, initiate the mantras. So Brahmin came this in this categories. Second one, who were powerful, who have this good muscle power. So they were considered as Rajanyas, not Kshatriya. Okay, Rajanyas. Third, who were good for nothing and only good for the physical labor. So they were considered as Vish. So what we have in the classification? Brahmins, Rajanyas and Vish. Now the interesting thing is, it was a meritocratic society. Foundation was not there on the basis of birth. So anyone born in any of the segment can move over to other segment. Those who can propitiate the god, who can sing the hymns, recite the hymns, were considered to be Brahmins. Those who can use the muscle power to defend the society, the community, were considered the Rajanyas. And those who were generally used for the manual labor were considered Vishas. So over the period of time, these consolidated into Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. Okay. Now, there were restrictions that this person will do this only, this person will do that only. So these restrictions were liabilities on the society, that how we are moving from one group to other group. Initially, these restrictions were not rigid. It was fluid. The society was fluid. Over the period of time, as frequent attack happened, frequent consolidation happened, so you see that this thing crystallized into Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya. Now it was birth-based. Now it was ascriptive in nature. So now these were considered Varnas. Varna. Okay. And those people who were not following into this criteria were considered Varnas का उल्टा क्या होगा? Avarnas. Eventually I will dictate it, everything. So don't worry about that. So Avarnas. Who were the Avarnas? In modern day classification, we call them Dalit. There is a difference between scheduled caste, Dalit and the Harijan. They are not one and the same. So what is the difference? We will come to that eventually. But right now, we will use the term Avarnas. That those who are not following under any of the classification of Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya. Now, so you see that this kind of caste was identified with some restrictions. And restrictions can be remembered in the form of SC Hero. You can write this mnemonic. SC Hero. SC all capital HERO. So whenever someone will ask you the definition of caste, all you have to remember is Supreme Court is hero. Okay. Now what is this meaning of this SC hero? Segmentary. Civil liabilities. Hierarchical. Endogamy. Restrictions on occupation. रिस्ट्रिक्शन ऑन ऑक्यूपेशन। क्या मतलब हुआ? Ascribe status in the society, segmentary division. So, what is the meaning of ascribed status? That everything was fixed by birth. So, when we say everything is fixed by birth, what it means is the initial fluidity which was there in the three Varna classification is not there. Now it has become rigid. One who is born in the Brahmin caste is not able to move to any other caste. So this is the civil or segmentary division. Now, hierarchical structure. Social and ritual importance is the criteria based on which hierarchy of the caste system was defined and designated. So, इसमें hierarchy क्या है? So, as we were discussing, those who can pray to the god were considered more important. Those who were considered muscleful was considered next to the ritual one, and so eventually. Now, there is one very interesting observation in this regard. You see that if you have read history, then you will realize that nearly all the caste movement originated from South India. All the anti-Brahminical movement originated from South India. Isn't it? Be it justice movement, IAR movement, SNDP movement, name any of the movement, you will realize that most of these movements are originated from South India. Can anyone tell me the reason for it? No? See, origin of caste right now we are discussing in the Indus Valley civilization or Vedic society. Okay, so you will see that when we talk about Brahmins, so in this case the Brahmin was someone who made the rules and rituals. Land was something which was controlled by Kshatriya, है ना, Raja और ये सब Kshatriya, and Vaishya generally looked after the economic phenomena, the one with the trading society. So you see in North India, there was clear-cut division of power in the North Indian society. Was this present in South Indian society? In South Indian society, there was only one caste, which was Brahmin, and they looked after everything. Be it the rule forming, be it the protection of the land, or be it the trading. So Brahmins, and after that OBC and the scheduled caste, the Dalits. So the power got consolidated in one hand. As against this, in North India, there was clear-cut demarcation of the power. कहाँ पढ़ा है आप लोगों ने इसको? Whose theory is division of power and where it is used in constitution? Montesquieu याद नहीं आ रहा किसी को? Division of power होना चाहिए ना. आज की डेट में भी you see that there is a division of power between the government, the legislative and the executive, judiciary, है ना? तो थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे कुछ relation दिख रहा है. So this was the division of power. Now, अब थोड़ा सा हम we are just moving away from the caste. So we are coming to the movement of Buddhism, Jainism, Charvaks, Ajivika. ये सब किसने किसने पढ़ा है ये सब? किसी को याद है? बुद्धिज्म, जैनिज्म, आजीविका, चारवाक, क्या थी इनकी थ्योरी? चारवाक तो याद होगा ना सबको? क्या है चारवाक की थ्योरी? हाँ हाँ, exactly. This is the live freely. This is the theory. For the uninitiated, Charvak was a philosopher or a contemporary of Mahatma Buddha and Jain. So these people talked about how to live a great life. So was Charvak used to, but it in a very different way. Charvak very famous slogan is, though it is used in, bit euphemistic kind of way, Javat Jitta Shukhi Jitva. This is the line. Rinam krite ghritam pitva. See, at that time he was considered very good thing. Okay, so Charvak's philosophy was, how long you are living doesn't matter. So live freely, live happily. Even if you have to take the loan, and with that loan you can drink ghee, do it. It doesn't matter. And see, in that phase, doing the loan was, even now, in certain sections, certain society, doing taking the loan is not considered a good thing. है ना? In Hindu society, it is said that you will be slave to someone in the other life. In Muslim society, it is haram. The interest is haram. So you see that, it has a severe repercussions on the economy also. We will come to that. But this is the line of the Charvak, that you have to live freely. You have to live hedonistically. It was the basis for the material philosophy. Buddhism was anti-Brahmin movement at that time, because Brahmins were observing the rights of Kshatriya as well as the Vaishya. They showed that they are the most important community or caste anywhere, isn't it? So Buddhism, Jainism and such kind of movement was a protest against the Brahmins in North India, and after the British there was protest against the Brahmins in South India. So this was the difference. Now coming back to our topic of caste, that you see that it originated in such a way that caste is not one phenomena. Okay. Commensality and social interaction. That how you talk to someone, how you accept the everything from someone is considered the way of the social interaction. For example, in ancient history, you must have read about the Anuloma and Pratiloma kind of marriage. And what is this Anulom and Pratilom kind of marriage? नहीं याद है किसी को? See, Anulom marriage is what is prescribed by the law. Anulom, as per the law. Pratilom is what is not prescribed by the law. So, when an upper caste girl married a lower caste boy, the result could have been aberrations. For example, it is often believed that there is a caste called Chandal. जानते हो? Ritual significance of Chandal is they cremate the body in the Samsan Ghat. And it is said that when a Brahmin girl married to a Chamar boy, the result was Chandal. And when a Brahmin girl married a Kevat guy, that boatman, so the result was Chamar. Okay, so this is the Pratiloma kind of system. But it was allowed for a lower caste girl to marry the upper caste boy. So this is exchange. This is Pratilom. As per the law, Anulom is as against the law. Okay, so this is the restrictions. This is the pattern of the social interaction. For example, if a Brahmin has to accept the food from the lower caste, it will be the raw food. है ना? So this we call kacha pakka food. And it is often cited by many sociologists that kacha food has to be accepted by the upper caste. Pakka food cannot be accepted by the upper caste. So this is the pattern of commensality and social interaction. Now ritual purity and social privileges. Ritual purity got designated by how one is close to the god. है ना? So Brahmins were closest to the god. So ritually they were pure. And as you will move from this pole, the ritual purity, your social designation will decrease. Now coming to this point, it is not that this was visually or this is there only in the as caste system. This can be found anywhere. Everywhere there is this distinction between ritually pure and how someone is working. For example, Bhimrao Ambedkar talk about Soma and Sura. याद है किसी को समझ में आया Soma and Sura क्या होता है? What is Soma and what is Sura? No. Huh? No. Somarus क्या होता है सोमरस? Alcohol. So it is clearly written in the books of writings of Bhimrao Ambedkar that there is a distinction between Soma and Sura. Soma was for the ritually pure caste. Soma was for the upper caste, whereas Sura was for the laborers. And this distinction, this rationing was also found in the African society, in the Roman society, everywhere. So wine was for the upper caste and the staple or the food based alcohol was for the lower caste. है ना? So you see that everything was decided that who is closest to the god. In case of the Romans, the masters used to control the resources. So they have the luxury of having the wine. In case of Africa, Cleopatra and such other people controlled the resources, particularly the priest. Even in the Muslims, there was this distinctions in the earlier phase of the Muslim civilization. So the wine was reserved for the priestly class. And rest would have gone for the Sura or the lower grain-based alcohol. So this guided the ritual purity and the social privilege. We have already talked about the marital restrictions. Now, marital restrictions याद आ गया ना आपको अनुलोम and pratilom. So the basis. So what is the basis of this? What are the factors because of which there was a historical origin? The only basis which is found in the Vedic writings is the color. See, the origin of caste is from the word casta, which means color in Portuguese. Portuguese language, color. So this was the only basis. Now, eventually, when we will read the multiple writings of sociologists, then there are multiple bases for the origin of the caste. Right now, we will discuss is the religious basis. See, religious sanctification is done so that it can get more and more strengthened. है ना, किसी भी चीज को आप रिलीजन से जोड़ दो वो चीजें अपने आप वैलिड हो जाती हैं, लोग मानने लगते हैं. So the first basis is, when we talk about Vedic references or the religious references, is Purush Sukta myth. किसको किसको पता है पुरुष सुक्ता myth? हाँ, Purushukta myth. Purush Shukta myth. Brahmins originated from, yes, mouth of the Brahma. Kshatriya originated from arms of the Brahma. And Vaishya, thighs. And Avarnas, sweating. Possible hai? It is possible that, somebody is originating from the mouth, somebody from the chest, and somebody from the thighs, and somebody from the sweat. But it is religiously sanctified. And when something is religiously sanctified, it is very hard to break. And this is one of the most important reason for the continuation of the caste, that the caste is religiously sanctified. Now, we will consider more rational approach of the origin of the caste. See, the other, though it is not valid now, but it is considered the Caucasian people moved in batches from the Caspian Sea region, and there they have interacted with the local. Yes, there was migration, not one scale, there was migration in the batches, and the continuous interaction was witnessed according to the many sociologists, and based on the nasal index. Nasal index पता है आपको ना? Based on the nasal index, a category or some phenotypical feature like color or the nasal index. See, you see that there is a caste, there is a tribe called Gond tribe. देखा है? जवार ट्राइब देखा, उनके नाक कैसे दबे से होते हैं ना, ठीक है? तो वो जो नेजल इंडेक्स है कि कितना इरेक्ट नाक है, नोज कितना इरेक्ट है, हाउ इरेक्ट इज द नोज डिफाइन द आइडेंटिटी ऑफ द क्लास. द मोस्ट इरेक्टेड वर फ्रॉम द अपर क्लास, ठीक है, एंड हुज नेजल इंडेक्स वाज नॉट गुड वर फ्रॉम द लोअर कास्ट. Though in this category, in this classification, Mulayam Singh Yadav and Akhilesh Yadav doesn't configure it because their nose is a completely different kind of. Okay, so nasal index means what we are talking about here is phenotypical features. Phenotypical features means the facial features and the color feature. Now, there was continuous fight between the different groups which came together, and based on that, the concept of das developed. Das means as in slave. So, whenever someone won over the other state, the people of that state were considered as das. And they were ascribed a position in the social hierarchy which was equivalent to Shudra or Dalits. How many of you have you seen Mahabharata? है ना? Nearly everyone has seen Mahabharata. So, so there is the concept of Das. Das has no rights. Das cannot say anything. So that kind of, because he has no right, he has no civil religion or religious right. So whatever his master is saying will be considered as the pure holy word to him. So that conception is called Das. And this is one of the reasons because of the which caste in India developed. Other classification is that what is the nature of your work? How many of you have heard the word called kamina? सबने सुना ही होगा ना? अच्छा वो है. Okay. So, what is the origin of kamina? What is the meaning of kamina? Right now we are considered someone who is rude or badmas kind of, na? But the origin of kamina is something like, it came from the word called kamin. Kamin, who used to work in the field. Yeah. And you see that doing work in a society like India, physical work is not considered good. The more amount of sweat is coming from your body, your position is, social hierarchy is the lowest. So Kamina developed because they used to work as a agricultural labor. Kamin, say Kamina bana North India mein. In South India, you will find the mention of a different caste who only used to come in the night, because it was considered that their shadow will pollute anyone. है ना? ये कौन से caste थे? These were the caste who used to wash the clothes of the scheduled caste. So ritually they were very impure, because they were washing the clothes of someone else. So here what we are discussing is the idea of the development of caste from the occupation. So caste as an occupational group. Further, those who did not abide by the norms of that day, the rules and regulation of the society, were designated a position of a scheduled caste or someone who is outside the prerogative of the caste. For example, it is said that there were 4 Brahmins, brother, and a cow was swimming in the river and it died, it drowned. So the youngest one was assigned the task of taking the carcass out of the river and remove it from the part. So on that day, he was designated the idea of Chamar caste in Uttar Pradesh. Further, if you drink, if you have a polyandrous relationship, if you consume the meats, you were assigned a position which was outside the caste. So, social liabilities and social and religious liabilities. Someone who is eating the meat and alcohol, beef. Beef was one of the things which was proscribed by the religious order of that day. So, those people who consume beef there were assigned the position of scheduled caste. आज भी नहीं हो रहा है क्या? So, you see that in Mahabharata, it has often been mentioned that you should eat non-veg, and even the rishis used to eat non-veg. वो नहीं सुना आपने आतापी वातापी पच? नहीं सुना? Sacred games नहीं देखा किसी ने? So there was this too. See, you know, see, it is not कि ये myth है. So just try to analyze the myth in terms of, you know, what is the metaphor it is presenting. So who will name his children Duryodhan? कभी सोचा है? Who will name his children Dussashan? Du मतलब तो बदमाशी हो गया ना. Nobody in the right mind will name their children Duryodhan or Dussashan. So what is the metaphor that Duryodhan or Dussashan is presenting? Bad person. You know, we don't have to classify it in such a black and white wala bad person, because we saw that Duryodhan is not good, so he's a bad person. See, just break the name Duryodhan. What is the meaning of Duryodhan? The ill-gotten wealth, something like that. The one who haven't got the wealth by the good means. The one who cannot administer, because Dussashan used to listen every word of his brother. Dussashan. यही है ना. So one misgovernance, bad malgovernance. So ये metaphor तो है ही ना. तो ये आतापी वातापी पच. So these rishis used to eat mutton, वो वाला कहानी कभी पढ़ के देखना and try to find out the metaphor in this. and it will be really helpful in writing the essays. Okay, so we have discussed the four origin of the caste. Now, over the period of time, this got more and more crystallized. This got more and more closed. So, was there any avenues in through which this caste were open? And can we consider caste as an open system of stratification? No. So now when we are talking about caste as a closed system of stratification, and we have used open system of stratification, so there is a difference between closed and open system of stratification. What is this difference? Social mobility means, is the society allowing any individual to grow from one social position to another social position? This is what we call class. The open system of mobility is called class. समझे कैसे? Anybody who is born as a washerman can end up as the chairman of HCL, the Nadar's family. है ना? Ambedkar. Okay. Mark Zuckerberg. है कि नहीं? Zuckerberg is a system of class mobility. But what is the status of the Jew? Mark Zuckerberg is a Jew. You know that, na? In Jew outside, endogamy is there. That you have to marry within your religion or within your community. Okay, endogamy. Now, so we have developed, we have understood that there are so many bases on the development of the caste. So, and we have discussed it as in the sense of Varna. Varna means a greater classification. So, what is Jati? What is Jati? Okay, let me make it more clear. So, probably you must have heard about this word, Jan and Jati. Who is a Jan and who is a Jati? Huh? Oh, so that is completely literal meaning of this. Jan is people and Jati is community. What is the figurative meaning? Okay. See, Jan in this case, we will come to that eventually, but Jan in this case is always assigned as tribes. Jati and Varna. Varna Vyavastha. Varna Vyavastha. You must have heard this term Varna Vyavastha from a long time. So, what is Varna Vyavastha and what is Jati? See, right now, nobody talks about Varnas. They always talk about the Jati. For example, you must have seen some of the Brahmins who wear 5 line over here. And some of the Brahmins wear 3 line over here, or maybe 1 or 2 line over here. Okay, or some wears none. Okay, so there is a difference between 5 lines and 3 lines. The 5 line one wala Brahmin is considered superior over the 3 line wala Brahmin. So they will not sit together. First the 5 line wala Brahmin will eat, and then the 3 line wala Brahmin wala eat. So Varna, we can say, is a constitution type of thing. And there is a different arrangement at the local level. So that the arrangement at the local level is considered as jati. समझ आया? Jati generally largely designated at the interplay of the caste relationship or the local relationship, largely based on occupation. Lohar, Sonar, Kurmi, Yadavs, Koiri. So there are so many jatis, Brahmin, Kshatriya, even in Kshatriya, Suryavanshi, Chandravanshi. One cannot directly descend from Surya ना. बहुत गलत हो जाएगा अगर ऐसा तो ठीक है. So these Suryavanshi, Chandravanshi classifications, so the jati is the real thing. Varna is the thing which is prescribed by the Veda. Jati was not prescribed by the Veda, but these jati were identified under the Varnas. For example, Shudra, they are the one who is working under this, are called Shudra. Physical labor, Lohar, Sonar, everyone considered as Shudra. The one who is dealing accountancy, okay, so such kind of people were considered Vaishya. So, jati is a more important feature of the Hindu caste system rather than Varna. But Varna has its own significance and its own importance. Aj, we are talking about the convergence. We are talking about the ghar wapsi. Do you think that conversion and ghar wapsi is possible in Hindu religion? Why? Because you will not be able to identify the caste of the people, and if you will not be able to identify the caste, in what caste they will marry? What is the identity of that people? उसको असाइन तो करना पड़ेगा ना आपको कि इस कास्ट का था. And that will play his role as an identity group, but that is not possible. What is the importance of Varna? You see that in Christian there is Vatican. In Christianity there is Vatican, which controls the religious feeling, which guides the religious feeling. Maybe there can be Anglican church, there can be Protestant sect, but there is church, no? Church is used as a bureaucracy so that a religion can be guided. Same is in Muslims. Quran act as a holy book. Bible act as a holy book around which everything is guided. Religious feeling and religious behavior is guided. What is there in Hinduism which guides the religion or which holds the glue of the religion? Huh? See, even if we talk about Mahabharata, okay, so there are multiple versions of Mahabharata. So I had this interest in reading about, Shakuni, because of some personal feeling कि भाई I should read about the Shakunis. ठीक है कि exactly who was Shakuni? So no, and the reason is that whenever I used to give this online kind of test, कि which characters of the Mahabharata you are similar to, even if I'm changing the answer, I used to be shown as Shakuni. So that's how I got interested in why I am Shakuni. So I started reading about the Shakuni, and what I realized is that, you all know the story of Shakuni, that Shakuni was the brother of Gandhari, who was the wife of Dhritarashtra, and she was from the Gandhar. So, as it happened that they came, all the Shakuni and his father, and along with his 3 brothers, came to Hastinapur. And in the old day, there was a rule that if you are being served the food, you are not supposed to go back to your place. The day you will stop getting the food, you can move out to your place. And as the Gandhar Naresh and the Gandhar king was angry with Bhishma that he, forcefully married their daughter to Dhritarashtra, to a blind person. So they want to retaliate. And this was known to Bhishma. So he stopped them. He served them food. But he placed them in a dungeon. He placed them in his jail. And he used to give daily food, one roti, to all the four brothers and their father. So their father decided, the Gandhar king decided, that the one who is the most intelligent among us, okay, will get the food, and rest of it will share the food. So Sakuni used to get the food daily. And eventually all the three brothers died. And when the Gandhar king felt that he was about to die, he took a wood log, and broke the leg of Sakuni. So that whenever he walks, the feeling that I have to take revenge from Hastinapur should be there. Okay, and for this revenge, Sakuni did what he did in Mahabharata. So can we say that Sakuni was a bad person? We cannot say that eventually, na? So what my point here is that for every hero, there is a villain in Indian society. Because you will have the version of different Mahabharata. So there is no one particular religious scripture which guides the Hindu religion. है कि नहीं? If we talk about Mahabharata, Gita, Ramayana, Upanishad, कुछ भी है ही नहीं. So they are largely the schools of the philosophy. You cannot get the feeling of the religious around it. So what is acting as in glue? What is acting as an agent around which Hinduism is surviving? नहीं समझे अभी भी? चलो मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूं, बहुत सिंपल सा. You have often heard the narrative that the biggest threat to Hindutva politics is Hinduism. सुना है ना? क्या मतलब है इसका? The biggest threat to Hindutva politics is Hinduism. हाँ एग्जैक्टली यही है ना भाई. इतने वर्जन है हिंदुइज्म के, किसको मानोगे? वो बोलेगा जी महिषासुर गुंडे है, दूसरा बोलेगा नहीं नहीं वो तो ठीक बंदा था यार, दुर्गा ही गुंडी थी. कुछ ना कुछ लोग तो बोलते ही रहते हैं ना भाई. इतने सारे वर्जन है. से इन फॉर एग्जांपल, एंड दिस वाज द केस इन द JNU, that when they started worshipping the Mahishasur, so some other section evolved and emerged, and they said that no, Durga did this, Durga did that. So a subaltern philosophy is always there. So you can never be sure that exactly this is the line of thought that you have to follow. So there is no sticking agent, there is no glue in the Hinduism. And this glue is provided by the Varna Vyavastha, the caste. समझ आया? जाति नहीं कर रही, वर्ण कर रहा है. So Varna Vyavastha is acting as in solidifying, as an agent around which Hinduism is there. That's why I told you that Ghar Vapsi or the religious conversion to Hinduism is not possible. So whenever you see the conversion to Hinduism, you always see that there is a demand that if we are not, if we will not get the SC designation, SC ascription, we will convert to, we will not get the reservation, then we will convert to some other religion. Okay, and this is the demand of the people who are converting from other religion to Hinduism also, that we should get the SC status. So religion is now acting as an agent of secular benefit, not the ritual benefit. Point समझे? So this is the part about the religious line based on which Varna is acting as an solidifying agent. Now what is Jan? Jati we have got it. समझ गए ना? That occupational group based on the field idea. idea is, see, in some cases, Lohar is considered higher in position than in some other areas. In some areas, the rice grower or the agricultural labor is considered more higher in position than the other areas. For example, in Odisha, agricultural labor is from the generally scheduled caste. And same agricultural labor in North India, particularly UP and Bihar, is from the OBC caste. So Jati shows something which happens at the lower level, or sorry, state geographical level. This is not true with the Varna. Varna is everywhere the same. Brahmins are Brahmins. Okay. Jati has the geographical play into this. Now, what is Jan? We will take the class of the Jan to get completely in a different class, because tribals is an important syllabus to our part, but where we have to understand that Jan is also there. So Jan. Now, if you will consider the society of United States, Red Indians, Latin America, Africa, tribals are there, but they were always distinct from the civilization. They always lived in isolation in Australia, in America, in South America. In India, tribals coexisted with caste Hindu. Even in Mahabharata, you find the mention of Duryodhan kidnapping a tribal girl. फिर वो पांडव गए थे, फिर कुछ हुआ था. ठीक है, आपने पढ़ा ही होगा. So even in Mughal Empire, you see that tribals were there. Jharkhand. Sorry, not Mughal Empire, that Mauryan Empire. है ना? Jharkhand, and so they coexisted. They existed at the periphery of caste Hindu. Yet they maintained their discipline. So not discipline, distinction. Yet they maintained their distinction. As against caste, which was guided by hierarchy, which was guided by endogamy and religious restrictions, tribals were not guided by any of these things. Their society was egalitarian in nature. Egalitarian मतलब equal placement right now in the social positioning. है कि नहीं? That's why you see that the outcomes, the social outcome and indicators of Himachal Pradesh, Northeast, Uttaranchal, Chhattisgarh are better than any other states. Largely, these are the tribal societies, hunting and gathering societies. Okay. So, Jati and Jan. Jati we have understood. Jan always maintain their religious freedom or distinctions. And it is also said that whenever Jan found it comfortable, they switched to Jatis. And whenever they found it difficult, they again switched back to Jan. So what we are discussing here is that there always existed a continuation between Jan and Jati. Now, who has heard about this Saha tribe? Saha. Saha surname जानते हो? Saha, S-A-H-A, Saha. सुना तो होगा ना बहुत सारा. कौन थे फेमस? साइंटिस्ट थे, कोई नाम याद करो, अपने आप मिल जाएगा. जगदीश चंद्र. नहीं सुना? बंगालीज होते हैं ना, साहा. And as it is in 16th century, they migrated from Andhra Pradesh to Bengal. And they brought the Kali goddess from Andhra to Bengal. And they became a part of caste Hindu. Earlier they were Jains. And this is true with Oraos also. They frequently migrated from tribals. Some of the Oraos in Jharkhand are Hindu, and some of the Oraos in Jharkhand are still maintaining the different identity of, or completely their natural godhead. Same is true with the Maitis in Manipur. है ना? So their continuous interaction was ongoing between Jan and Jati based on the economic indicators. कभी उनको इकोनॉमी में फायदा हुआ तो वो जन बन जाया करते थे, कभी फायदा नहीं हुआ तो वापस जाति बन गए. ठीक है. सो दिस इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट फ्रॉम एवरीवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड. नहीं समझे? हर जगह ट्राइब्स पेरिफेरी पे थे, हर जगह ट्राइब्स इन ऑल अक्रॉस वर्ल्ड tribes used to exist in complete isolation. There was not continuous interaction with the larger civilization. है ना? In India, there was continuous interaction with the civilizations. That's why there was that question that in India, the tribals are a very hard community to define, or the definition of tribal is not that possible. क्वेश्चन याद है ना आप लोगों को, आया था 2021 में. सो अभी हमने कर लिया फीचर्स ऑफ द कास्ट सिस्टम, हिस्टोरिकल ओरिजिन, वैदिक रेफरेंसेस, रूल्स ऑफ मैरिज, क्या now one part which is left is, although we have discussed it to certain extent, open and closed system of stratification. So till now we have taken caste as a closed system of stratification, but caste also can act as an open system of stratification. Yesterday we had a brief discussion about that. So what was that discussion? How many of you are aware with a term called Sanskritization? क्या होता था Sanskritization? That merely by imitating the lifestyle of upper caste people, like abstaining from alcohol, abstaining from meat eating, monogamous relationship, okay, Brahmanical lifestyle, you can become the part of upper caste. And there is this example of Purgi caste, who became the upper caste just by following the imitation style. Purgi caste पता है ना आप लोगों को? हाँ? ऐश्वर्या राय, सुनील शेट्टी. They are from the area called Kurg. So they copied or imitated the lifestyle of Brahmins at that time, and eventually after 1 or 2 generation, important word is 1 or 2 generation or 3 generations, means there is a movement in the order, but it is a generational shift. It is a intergenerational upward mobility. ठीक है? Intergenerational means it will not happen in one generation, but in the open system of stratification, if somebody's son or one among you will clear the UPSC examination, or I hope that most of you will clear it, but your position, social position will change. So upward mobility will come in one generation. Intra-generation. So right now we are talking about the open system of stratification, which is class-based stratification. So in caste, upward mobility was possible but intergenerational, not intragenerational as in the open system of stratification. Next, mobility through warfare. ये warfare क्या होता है? That suppose if someone consolidate them into a group and fight against the established kingdom and they defeat him, then the social position of that kingdom will decrease and the one who won it will increase. So Pandit, the Brahmins used to find the genealogy based on कि आप सूर्यवंशी हो, चंद्रवंशी हो, and they were designated as Kshatriya. ठीक है? So mobility through warfare. Third, suppose someone leaves this world or the earthly pleasures of this world, can he be considered as a part of the caste? नहीं समझे? बाबा रामदेव की कास्ट क्या है? आशाराम बापू की, श्री श्री रविशंकर, ये वाले कौन से बाबा हैं जिनको अभी भी न्यूरो वाला अटैक आया था, स्ट्रोक आया था जिनको अभी? हाँ, सदगुरु. ठीक है, तो सदगुरु की कास्ट क्या है? राम, सच्चा राम रहीम इंसान बहुत सारे हैं ना. कास्ट बता दो आप इनकी. No caste. Why? Because they left the earthly pleasures. So when somebody renounced the world, caste तो आती नहीं है उनकी. Nobody talks about their caste because they have renounced the world. नहीं समझे? Now, after renouncing the world, they can come back again to the world, mainstream, Naga Babas. They used to akhadas, there are multiple akhadas. So once they renounce the world and they used to come back to the world. Okay, so that's how they absorbed the idea of the caste first, but again they mainstreamed it, moving up in the social hierarchy. रामदेव आज तो काफी बड़े बन गए हैं ना, तभी तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला we will rip you apart. The idea is what? The idea is, see, I don't think, probably he is a Yadav from Haryana. I'm not sure about that, but this is the fact that he is a Yadav from Haryana. While talking about Yadavs also, who is a Yadav? See, the idea is, this is the idea about the caste, that since till 1924, there was no caste called Yadav. So in 1924, there was an assembly of the people all across India who were involved in the cow rearing, breeding and business, this kind of business, and they identified their identity from Krishna, Lord Krishna, and they made themselves a politically stable caste called Yadav, Yaduvanshis, because they were associated with the cow rearing and bearing. है ना? So there was this political mobilization of one particular caste. Same was found in the Kurmi caste also. So you see that even through the mobilization, upward mobility is possible through political mobilization. Okay? So when you were asked the question that, delineate the difference between caste and class. So these type of idea that there is a similarity between open system of stratification, which is class, and the closed system of stratification, which is caste. So you can write all these points through which the movement, the mobility in the caste is possible, and which gives it the traits of open system of stratification. समझ गए? तो ये आइडिया था कि what is the open system of stratification. Which brings us to the point that is caste equivalent to caste? What is the difference between caste and class? सबसे पहले हमने क्या डिस्कस किया था? ओपन सिस्टम था ना, ब्राह्मण्स, राजन्यास, विश. Okay, so open system of mobility was there. Meritocracy, based on the meritocratic tendencies, movement from one classification, one ascriptive criteria to other criteria was possible. So, which made caste equivalent to class. But of late, as the consolidation began, it differed from the idea of open system of stratification and class. Now, what is the status now? So, for understanding the status now, we have to understand these parts. That what is the idea of the caste in two parts. First, the post-British. Second, post-independence. Post-independence will be dealt in two ways. Till 1991 and after 1991. So till now what we have got is that caste was a system of social arrangement. And was this arrangement unique to India or unique to Hinduism in India? What is your answer? We have the idea of, we have not the idea of, we have the identity of Dalit Christians. We have Dalit Muslims. We have backward Muslims and backward Christians. है कि नहीं? कहां से आइडिया आया ये? So for understanding this, we have to understand the conception of culture. ठीक है? तो एक कल्चर होता है जिसे हम बोलते हैं डोमिनेंट कल्चर. In a country like India, which is very warm, ठीक है, और क्लाइमेट क्या है आपको पता ही है, it is not temperate, yet you will see that most of us people are wearing denim jeans. है कि नहीं? Most of us, the modern one, are eating pizzas and whatever you say. But it is not suitable as per the Indian context. For in temperate conditions, jeans was invented to provide stability to the farmers in United States, those who used to work in the field in temperate conditions. Okay, हम यहाँ गर्मी में 45 डिग्री पे पहन के चल रहे हैं. What is the idea about this? Idea is that, with globalization and with the popular culture of TV, we have identified there is one dominant culture, and the culture of United States. In political science parlance, we will call it soft power. So the soft power of the United States is much more stronger than any other country, isn't it? तभी तो हमने कॉटन पहनना छोड़ ही दिया है. लगभग आइडिया सही है. जीन्स तो सही में होता ही बड़ा सही है. When I used to be a student, at least I used to wear the same jeans for 3 or 4 months बिना धुले. ठीक है, आइडिया वही है. कि वो रखे रखे खुद से साफ हो जाया करता था, धुलने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती थी उसे। तो you see the practical significance is there. So the idea is that there is always and there will be always a dominant culture. And when that culture interacts with a weak culture, or that in this parlance we can say the inferior culture, so there will be, say for example, A is the dominant culture and B is the other weak culture. So in this case it will be A plus B equals to A. Okay. And when the culture, two cultures are equivalent, okay, so there's one minor and still difference. So this part will automatically become C. Why we are discussing this? Cultural theory. See, in this case, when we are discussing the cultures in India, Christianity or Muslims, when they came, Hindu culture was the dominant culture. But the political sovereignty was there with the Islam in the initial phases and Christianity in the later phases. थोड़ा सा कठिन हो रहा है क्या? You are understanding it, na? You are grasping it. Or should I change the way, or you want dictation, then I will first dictate. But I have reserved the dictation for some other class. Okay, एक बार में सारा खत्म करा देंगे. ठीक है? तो in this case, what exactly happened that when Hinduism was a dominant culture in the pre-invasion era, before the migrations of Muslims to India, so A plus B became A. Most of the community got itself converted to Hinduism. Now, when the political supremacy or the political sovereignty of the Muslims were there, so A plus B resulted in not A, not B, rather C. What is C here? C here is that caste itself got transcribed to Muslims and Christians itself. It was not Hinduism per se, it was not Christianity or Muslims per se. Something new emanated out of the continuous interactions between the different culture. क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं हम लोग इसे? There was a question called caste and non-Hindus. And this question is also important considering the BJP's, this year in this election, BJP continuous appeasement towards the Pasmandas Muslim. नाम सुने हो ना Pasmandas? नहीं जानते हो? Muslims in Bihar generally considered as the backward Muslims, Pasmandas Muslims. देखो मैं कुछ ऐसा नहीं बता रहा हूँ, सारे न्यूज़पेपर में चल ही रहे हैं और चलते ही रहेंगे. माइतीस वाला इशू है, वो भी तो आपको इधर से ही आ रहा है ना. ठीक है, सब कुछ इस, और माइती का मेन इशू क्या है उधर? माइतीज एंड कुकीज की जो लड़ाई हो रही है, इशू क्या है? It's about the political supremacy and sovereignty, na? It is converging with the religion and caste issues. तो ये समझना पड़ेगा आपको. So this is called the process of acculturation, that a part of a culture eventually translate and mixes with the other culture and something new emerges. Acculturation. And this is the reason because of which globalization and the soft power of United States is. अच्छा चलो मैं ठीक है, ग्लोबलाइजेशन समझते हो? पनीर टिक्का पिज्जा है ना एग्जांपल ग्लोबलाइजेशन का. जीन्स विद कुर्ता, जेन्यू है कि नहीं? So what these are the examples of globalization, na, where the local is converging with the idea of global. जो कॉकटेल का शौक रखते हैं, काला खट्टा कॉकटेल, क्या है ये आइडिया? ठीक है. So this is the idea, globalization. जामुन के साथ लोग वोडका पी रहे हैं, ठीक है. तो हाँ, मैक्रोनी समोसा, सेजवान डोसा, कुछ भी चल रहा है, ठीक है. So the acculturation is what? See, एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी है. KFC came to India in 1991. Pizza Hut came to India in 1991, just after the globalization. Just after the globalization. But they were not successful in cracking the Indian code. As against this, McD got success. KFC has to close its shop. So, and Pizza Hut also closed it. After that, they came in 2003 with Paneer Tikka Pizza. But McD kept running with that French fries, burger, and whatever it was. And it's ironic that whenever McD tried to invent or discover, launch some product in Indian category, it failed. It was a different thing altogether. But rest of these shops, these MNCs came to India and failed because they were not Indianizing enough. Point is that when it comes to food and culinary behavior, people generally, are much more interested in their idea. They will mix it with something else, but the originality of this that will be remaining. The Chinese food in India is not that Chinese food. Chinese food is very bland and very, मतलब अगर हम Indian birds की बात करें तो बकवास होते हैं, ठीक है. Cultural concept है. See, so food is one thing which forces you to behave in that way. And that is the reason that people want to migrate to the West rather than to Russia. And that's why our relationship with Russia will never be that successful as it will be in Western countries or Western Europe and USA. Because food का issue है उधर, है ना? So, in case of caste in non-Hindus, which started with the Islamization and the process of acculturation, it's after a while it got transferred to other religion. And naturally, when you will convert, who converted the first? The lower caste, because they were not getting the respect. So they brought the idea of caste to other religion also. Similarly, when Jesuit comes to India, so they got the idea of Brahmin, Christians, and even now they are not marrying into the other lower caste religion. Okay, so this was the idea in the pre-British era, that caste itself got involved and it acted as a political way through its panchayat. Every caste has its own panchayat. Largely the issues were taken care by the Brahmins, but there were panchayats everywhere. Caste panchayats of different party, and this is the reason because of which you will not find the incidences of caste violence in the pre-British era. सुना है आपने कभी? नहीं सुना ना? Now, when the British came to India, so they used translators. And as the nature of Indian education was rote based, or it was based on mugging, so the upper caste who had the monopoly over education in India considered esoteric, not exoteric, esoteric nature of education, learned the English very easily. This point is to be understood properly, that you see that the lower caste never had the privilege of the education, and it was proscribed by the ritual of that day. है ना कि भाई अगर कोई सुनेगा तो you have to put molten lead in their ear. सुना ही होगा आपने, है ना? ढोल पशु शूद्र अति नारी ये सब हैं ताड़न के अधिकारी. समझते हो? नहीं समझे? ढोल पशु शूद्र अति नारी ये सब हैं ताड़न के अधिकारी. देखो ढोल को ना जितना बजाओगे उतना ठीक होता है, वो मारोगे जितना ठीक होगा. सेम इज ट्रू विद द बैल ऑल्सो, द ऑक्सन ना. जितना मारोगे वो ठीक से काम करेगा. So this was the metaphor which was given in Tulsidas Ramayan, Dhol Pashu Sudra Ati Nari, ki you have to keep them beating so that they will work properly. You have to give them a hard beating. Now, there are interpretations also. Tadan matlab that when you are acting as a savior, okay, you are acting as a shepherd. है ना? तो tadan can be taken in two ways. But largely, if we go by the normal discourse, then tadan is marna. नारी भी है ना? नारी भी है. अति नारी मतलब नारी भी, टू, नारी टू. ठीक है. सी ताड़न मतलब ताड़न समझते हो ना आप? ताड़न एक तो मारना हो गया, दूसरा सेविंग भी यहाँ पे हो सकता है. तो अब इंटरप्रिटेशन एग्जैक्टली पता नहीं तुलसीदास ने क्या सोचा होगा. लड़ाई हुई होगी तो ताड़न ने लिख दिया होगा. ठीक है, तो ये हमें तो पता नहीं है. ठीक है. तो दिस वाज द नेचर ऑफ कास्ट ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम. सो but in the era of the British, when Brahmins and Kshatriyas started acting as the translator, so they propagated in that way that our caste is superior to any other caste. So the understanding of the British of the Indian village largely emanated from the perspective of the Brahmins. देखो, हमने hierarchy पढ़ा है. That hierarchy and ritual purity restrictions were there. So just think about it. When the British ethnographer visited any of the village, they always used to stay at the Brahmin's home. है ना? क्योंकि लोअर कास्ट के यहाँ से तो खाना नहीं खाएंगे, ट्रांसलेटर तो इनके ब्राह्मण ही है. तो वर्जन किसका आएगा? ब्राह्मणिकल वर्जन ही आएगा ना. सो इन दैट ब्राह्मणिकल वर्जन द ब्राह्मण्स showed themselves as of being far superior to any other caste. So largely the British policy was based on divide and rule, and they understood that there is this gulf between Brahmins and other castes. Based on this, they started further division in the Indian society to the extent that there is this confusion. I will resolve it tomorrow. Okay. But there is a regiment called Mahar regiment. है ना? अभी भी it still exists as far as I know. But it used to exist at some point of time. Mahar regiment means the regiment which is only being populated by the Mahars. Mahars is a scheduled caste from Maharashtra. Okay. So they used the caste as a tool to offset the advances by any other caste. Say for example in 1922, when Gandhi became very popular among the different sections, and due to the Gandhian impact, there was a strike in Madras in the factories where most of the workers were Brahmins and the OBCs. The British used the scheduled caste as a tool to offset the advances of the Brahmins and the OBCs to break the strikes. नहीं समझे? कि अगर तुम काम नहीं करोगे तो हम दलितों को काम दे देंगे. बस हो गया खत्म स्ट्राइक. ओके. सो अब थोड़ा सा यहां से आगे चलते. एक इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट है, इस यूज कर सकते हैं हम लोग इसको कहीं पे भी, सोसाइटी और ऐसे में कहीं पे भी. राइट नाउ आई टॉक्ड अबाउट महार रेजिमेंट, है ना? Similarly, there are so many regiment called Rajputanas, Raj Rifles, Ahir regiment, okay, Yadavs. बहुत सारे रेजिमेंट होते हैं ना, बिहार रेजिमेंट. सो देयर इज दिस वेरी, अब यहाँ पे ना देखो, we have to develop a different kind of perspective on nearly everything. Okay, so probably if somebody asks you that what is the significance and utility of the caste, why we should not use such kind of surnames or the identity of the caste in the army, and why should we use it? है ना, एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी है यहाँ पे. सो देयर वाज अ जनरल कॉल्ड जनरल सुंदर जी. याद है सबको जनरल सुंदर जी? सो व्हेन somebody asked General Sundar ji that in Pakistan there is religion. In nearly all countries there are religions. And in India we don't have the religion in army. So what is the gluing force? So General Sundar ji started the story about the 1962 war. That there is a village in Rewari, near to Rewari in Haryana. And it was a regiment. It was most of the people from their village. Okay. The AIR regiment was posted in Arunachal Pradesh in 1962. So as it happened when Chinese attacked, so nearly around 118 people were there. 18 people were there. And 116 people died. So these two people with the bullet injury somehow made to the Assam. Okay, and they got admitted into the army hospital. And from their family, 5 people were posted there. From their family itself, 5 people were posted there. Two uncles, 2 nephews, and 1 brother-in-law was one among them. So 1 nephew and 1 uncle survived from the same family, and 3 of the people died. Okay? So when they got discharged from the hospital and they returned to their village in the Rewari, Haryana, so most of the village told them that you are Gaddar, you have run away from the war and let your relatives die. So you are traitors. So for 30 years, they were treated as a like traitor. For 28-30 years, they were treated like traitors. Now when their virgin was confirmed by the army and some of the journalists, so that's how they got the respect from outside other parts of the India, but not from their village. Why I am telling you this story? In our caste, in our regiment, you see that what we are discussing here is unity of small cohesions. People from the same village, same caste. Okay, their colonel was Bhati from Rajasthan. Bhati are Rajputs from Rajasthan. So he told them that from this day onwards, I will be considered as an Ahir. Okay, so this is the story that the unity of the small cohesion in terms of caste, in terms of village, or in terms of caste works in India, which strengthens it. After that, they somehow got the award and the medals from the army, but still the respect was not there in the village. Just because that how can you survive while your relative dies? So this is something called unity of small cohesion, which makes the Indian army very strong, particularly in terms of villages. It acts as a glue force for the Indian army, based on the idea of caste or geographical closeness, resemblance. And this is the feeling, not in Indian army, which is making the caste very strong. Or even in India. Pucho kyun, kaise? Suppose you are coming from your village, or you're from some of your people who know from the same district is living in Delhi. So probably for the first help, you will go to him for help, na? So a social network based on the idea of small cohesion will develop, and that will act as a gluing force. That will act as the idea of the social networking. Okay? So British made it a point to divide the Indian society in the caste based on the idea of mutual antagonism for each other. आइडिया क्या है यहाँ पे म्यूचुअल एंटेगनिज्म क्यों? resources were limited in the source, government jobs were limited, है कि नहीं? And when these government jobs are limited, so you will fight against each other, you will compete against each other. So this will increase the competitive view in a more detrimental way, not in a solidifying way, but in a detrimental way, because the secular resources are limited. Now further you accentuated this phenomena by separate electrodes, or the idea of the separate electrodes. So, and more importantly, with the Benthamite traditions, you understand the Benthamite, na? Jerry Bentham was a philosopher, law philosopher from the England, who propagated the idea of universal law, that everybody is equal in front of the law. Jerry Bentham. So he created the universal court where everybody was treated in an equal way. है ना? But this destroyed, not this weakened the notion of caste panchayat. Caste panchayat क्या करते थे? Caste panchayat acted in a very balancing way to balance each other interest. हाँ भाई, तुम्हारे भी घर से जेल में गया, इसके भी घर से जेल में गया, है ना? खत्म हो गया आइडिया. अब यहाँ पे क्या है? कोर्ट बैठी हुई है, and legal process was expensive. So the further expansion or the antagonism further developed between the different castes, and caste ended as a being a competitive group. ठीक है? Previously, there is a part called जजमानी system. किसको आइडिया है जजमानी system? क्या होता था जजमानी सिस्टम? जजमानी, yes, that there was a pattern of mutual dependence through the जजमानी system. आज भी होता है. एक्सचेंज सिस्टम, बार्टर एक्सचेंज सिस्टम हुआ करता है ना. थोड़ा बहुत गांव पे क्या होता है, आप चावल दे दो, जो आपके बार्बर आएंगे वो बाल काट के चले जाएंगे, बार्बर ठाकुर जो ही बोलते हैं वो बाल काट के चले जाएंगे. कुछ और टाइप से डिपेंडेंस रहता है. यू अंडरस्टूड दिस पॉइंट ना, दैट इन एक्सचेंज फॉर सम ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट्स, लाइक ब्राह्मण विल टेक राइस for some caste, and in exchange of that he will protect you against the malevolence of some god, है ना? Benevolence, he will be acting in a benevolent way. So, and similarly barber caste, lohar caste will give you the idea about it. So jajamani system acted as a glue of the mutual dependence for each other caste. So there was always interaction and dependence of one caste with the other caste. Now when the British came और उसके साथ साथ मार्केट फोर्सेस आई, मार्केट फोर्सेस in this sense we are talking about that occupation developed, है ना? Modern occupations and jobs developed, transportations developed, people started moving from one village to the urban areas. So the dependence of one caste over other caste decreased. Now, what is the glue in which they are acting the caste? Largely in the urban area, they are the competitive group. Initially, when we are talking about the Jajamani system, they were the associational groups because they associated with each other based on the idea of some need. But with the modern education, modern job, the nature of association has changed. Now it was more transactional. ट्रांजेक्शन समझते हैं ना आप लोग? नहीं? किसी को भी कोई डाउट है तो पूछ सकते हो. क्या ज्यादा हो रहा है क्या आज? तो बच्चों के चेहरे डूबते जा रहे हैं. ठीक है, क्या हो रहा है? आर यू गेटिंग बोर्ड? बताओ कोई डाउट भी, किसी भी टाइप का डाउट हो तो पूछ सकते हो. अच्छा, ओके, ट्रांजेक्शनल। देखो मैं बताता हूँ, सिंपल सी बात है, पहले गुरुकुल वाला हिसाब किताब हुआ करता था ना, टीचर पैसे वैसे नहीं लिया करते थे, गुरु दक्षिणा नहीं लिया करते थे, है कि नहीं? तो बच्चे ना बड़े ऑटोमेटिकली इज्जत करते थे, गुरुजी हैं, गुरुजी पैर पे गिर गए, ये हो गया वो हो गया। अब हम फी ले रहे हैं, अभी क्लास से बाहर निकलोगे मुझे गाली दोगे, ठीक है? तो दिस इज द डिफरेंस। पहले क्या था, ट्रांजेक्शनल नहीं था, पहले रिलेशनल था, ठीक है? पहले हर कुछ, अच्छा गुरुजी हैं, ये हैं, पैसे नहीं लेते, ज्ञान की बातें कर रहे हैं। अभी क्या, अच्छा ये फी के बदले पढ़ा रहे हैं, ठीक है, हो गया, ठीक है। सो यहाँ पे क्या हुआ, चूंकि आपने पैसे दिए, ट्रांजेक्शन किया, सो ट्रांजेक्शनल नेचर हो गया। पहले इमोशनल था, ठीक है? तो ये बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस है ट्रांजेक्शनल और इमोशनल होने में, ठीक है? पहले कास्ट in the through the Jajamani system, it was emotional. Now, because largely, see, the commodification of everything started. Rice were being sold in the market. है ना? See, this is the part. The market part has changed everything. Interestingly, the market part has changed the British civilization also. According to one of the sociologists, the introduction of the clocks in the daily life of people has changed the civilization. थोड़ा सा इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहा है ये, इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ द क्लॉक। कैसे? पहले आइडिया ऑफ क्लॉक था ना, अब ये सूर्य उगा सूर्य डूबा, अब क्लॉक का इंट्रोडक्शन है। कैसे? से प्रोबेबली यू विल वर्क फ्रॉम 8 in the morning 8 to evening 8. Okay, so your children will go to the school from this to this time only. Okay, so now in that case, suppose if your children are going to the schools from 8 to 10, sorry, from morning 7 to 2 in the afternoon, you need someone in the home, some maid, some help. Okay, and you are going from job to 8 to 8 if both of the couples are going, बिकॉज मोदी जी ने इतनी महंगाई कर दी कि दो लोगों ने तो काम करना ही पड़ेगा, ठीक है? और पहले भी ये हुआ करता था इन द पोस्ट इंडस्ट्रियल, ये वाला जो स्टेज था आपका, पोस्ट इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन वाला स्टेज. सो द सैलरीज वर सो लो that a family of 5, which included 3 children of the age 6, 7, 8, has to work for 2 times bread. The conditions were so bad that wife, husband, and their 3 children were working from 12-hour shift just to eat 2 times meal in England. So the conditions were so bad. So because the clock got introduced into our life, initially a man could have worked for 24 hours or could have worked anywhere. Now his wife has to work in the market so that they can earn money. So this started with the clock. So as the transactional part of the relationships developed in the society, everything in exchange of money created a notion in the world where the emotional dependence or emotional unwinding happened. Initially it was emotions which guided the relationships. Now it is the economy or the sense of money which guided the relationships. Yesterday only we were discussing that because there is the financial significance of the woman decreased in the post mechanization era of the green revolution, so the violence against them increased. हम लोग कल डिस्कस किए थे इस चीज को, है ना? तो वही ट्रांजेक्शनल नेचर, as transactional nature of the system of the British, the market-based economy of the British developed, the caste became independent of each other. है कि नहीं? Just think about it, that right now we are living in an age where the joint family is breaking down. क्यों? Why joint family is breaking down? because there is existence of specialized institution for everything, है कि नहीं? स्कूल्स है, क्रेचेस है, ठीक है, 3:30 बजे के बाद बच्चों के खेलने के लिए स्पोर्ट्स एकेडमी है, बच्चे तो दिन भर घर पे इंगेज ही रहे, वाइफ हस्बैंड जॉब करने जा रहे हैं, जरूरत कहाँ है? पहले क्या था? पहले था कि फैमिली यूज्ड टू लर्न एवरीथिंग, और सॉरी टीच एवरीथिंग टू द चिल्ड्रंस, where there was no specialized educations like schooling, modern education था ही नहीं, हर कुछ आप घर में ही सिखा रहे थे, तो फैमिली बढ़ती जा रही थी, they needed more hands at work, so there was joint family. now वो जरूरत ही नहीं है, specialized institutions है, and it will further decrease. There are so many single households in Delhi, most of you people are living alone. What is the notion of village for you right now? festivals में ही जाते हो ना, कभी भी तो नहीं पहुंच गए, गर्मी छुट्टी पे तो आप कैंप में जाने लग गए, अब पहले जाया करते थे गांव अपने, अभी तो समर कैंप करते हैं सारे पहाड़ों में, सही भी है ठीक है. तो द आइडिया इज दैट द इमोशनल एफिनिटी दैट यू यूज्ड टू हैव फॉर योर familial family, the family is decreasing over the period of time because of the increase in so many avenues for it. सोचा है कभी कि भैया सलमान खान और शाहरुख खान और आमिर खान की पिक्चर चल क्यों नहीं रही है आज की डेट में? पुष्पा क्यों चल रही है? सोचा है कभी? बड़ी बजट की जितनी पिक्चर आया करती थी सारी बर्बाद होने लग गई हैं. ये पठान भी अगर देखो तो इट्स जस्ट अ चीप रिप ऑफ ऑफ सो मे बी 10 to 12 फिल्म्स, ठीक है, और दिस इज ट्रू विद नियरली एवरी ऑफ द लार्ज बजट बॉलीवुड फिल्म. सो व्हाई these pictures are not doing good? What has changed after 2020? पंचायत टाइप की छोटे छोटे सीरीज फेमस हो रहे हैं, है ना, मामला लीगल है, पंचायत, ठीक है, इस टाइप के हिंदी जो छोटे बजट वाले सीरीज हैं. शाहरुख खान आमिर खान की पिक्चर क्यों नहीं चल रही है? अभी कोई आई थी आमिर खान की पिक्चर, लाल सिंह चड्ढा, उसके अलावा कोई आई थी? चल क्यों नहीं रही है? और पुष्पा, केजीएफ, ऐसे पिक्चरों का नाम बदला चलो कोई नहीं. सालर, सालर भी अच्छी फेमस है ना, पता नहीं. अच्छा सेला किसकी है? यश की? हाँ अच्छा प्रभास की, ठीक है. क्यों चल रही है? Connecting, and probably if I try to explain it, the language agonism has increased in the society. हम लोग लैंग्वेज को लेके एगोनिस्टिक हो गए हैं ना, हमें नहीं पता, हम हिंदी अगर बोल रहे हैं तो हमें नहीं सुनना हिंदी, क्योंकि हमें सबटाइटल्स मिल रहा है. पहले सबटाइटल वाला ऑप्शन नहीं था इतना इजीली अवेलेबल. आज सालर हम इसलिए देख रहे हैं, केजीएफ इसलिए देख रहे हैं क्योंकि हमें लैंग्वेज के ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल. पहले तो जो आमिर खान और शाहरुख खान की मूवी आ रही थी हमने वही देखना था. आज की डेट में हमारे पास सबटाइटल्स हैं, इतने सारे चैनल हैं ओटीटी प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे, हम कुछ भी देख सकते हैं. और जब फिर हम देखेंगे तो कॉम्पेरेटिव इंडेक्स तो डेवलप होगा ही ना, और जब वो इंडेक्स डेवलप होगा तो पता चलेगा कि भैया ये क्या रिप ऑफ हमें दिखा रहे हो, सलमान खान मार रहे हैं आके ऐसे, कुछ भी वही चीज पहले साउथ इंडिया में हो चुकी है किसी और मूवी में. तो जब ये चीजें रहेंगी तो आप क्यों देखने जाओगे? तो ये तो लैंग्वेज एगोनिज्म का एग्जाम्पल है ना, ठीक है, यही चीजें हो रही थी. तो द आइडिया क्या है यहाँ पे? आइडिया ये है कि जो ऑक्यूपेशन बेस्ड ग्रुपिंग्स थे और जो ट्रांजेक्शनल नेचर, जैसे जैसे कॉमोडिफिकेशन आता चला गया, हैवी वर्ड्स नहीं हम यूज करेंगे, जैसे जैसे मार्केट इकोनॉमी डेवलप होती चलेगी, as soon as the market economy started developing in India, the whole purpose of the caste was weakening. And you will see that today when we are so much urbanized, elections and marriage and reservations are three things which is keeping the caste alive. Otherwise, whatever characteristics we identified, आप बताओ इसमें से कौन कौन से कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स अभी भी हैं? ascription based हटा दो. Is that it based on hierarchical structure? Because we never know who is traveling in Delhi metro with us. So how we will maintain the social distancing, the hierarchical distancing? Okay, commensality and social interactions. यूनिवर्सिटीज में सारे एक साथ तो पढ़ रहे हैं. अब इफेक्टिव इंडिविजुअलिज्म आ जाएगा. भाई कोई किसी को कैसे पसंद करेगा नहीं करेगा, इस पे तो कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शंस नहीं है. को वर्किंग स्पेसेस बढ़ गए हैं, साथ साथ काम कर रहे हैं, तो कुछ ये तो है नहीं. रिचुअल प्योरिटी एंड सोशल प्रिविलेजेस. नाउ एवरीबॉडी वांट्स टू बी एन ओबीसी और एससी और एसटी. तो अब जो आप प्योरिटी ढूंढने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, इट इज नॉट रिचुअल, इट इज सेक्युलर. सेक्युलर क्या होता है? अरे नहीं नहीं नहीं, देखो रिचुअल क्या होता है, ये बस लास्ट है, उसके बाद आप लोगों को बोर नहीं करूंगा मैं, ठीक है. ये बस ये समझ लो, बाकी वाले एक पार्ट हम लोग कर लेंगे. रिचुअल क्या होता है? रिचुअल समथिंग विच हैज टू बी डन विद गॉड ना. रिचुअल से, रिलीजन से. सेक्युलर क्या होता है? सेक्युलर मतलब पॉलिटिकल सेक्युलर का हटा दो. सेक्युलर मतलब समथिंग विच इज प्रेजेंट ऑन दिस अर्थ. I don't want a good seat in heaven. Rather, I want a good chair in my room, जहां बैठ के मैं पढ़ सकूं. ठीक है, तो उसके लिए मुझे पैसे खर्च करने होंगे, मैं करूंगा. ठीक है, वो सेकुलर है. जो अर्थली है ना, वो सेकुलर है, जो इस अर्थ पे मिल रहा है. जो रिचुअल वाला पार्ट है, वो आप इस अर्थ के बियॉन्ड करते हो कि भाई मरने के बाद मेरा लाइफ अच्छा होगा, है ना, हम स्वर्ग जाएंगे, ये करेंगे वो करेंगे. तो जो सेकुलर पार्ट है, आज की डेट में जो कास्ट का मैनिफेस्टेशंस है, वो सेकुलर मैनिफेस्टेशन है. मतलब व्हाट वी वांट फ्रॉम द कास्ट is to get more and more secular benefit out of it. Suppose if I get the reservation, then there are chances that it might help me in any of the examinations. है कि नहीं? तो ये तो सेकुलर मैनिफेस्टेशन है इस चीज का. तो कास्ट जो पहले रिचुअल प्योरिटी से रिलेटेड था, आज की डेट में ये सेकुलर हायरार्की से रिलेटेड है. दैट वी वांट टू गेट मोर एंड मोर बेनिफिट out of using caste. How? Caste as a political group. हम ग्रुप बनाएंगे डिफरेंट लोगों के साथ में, ताकि हमारे साथ पॉलिटिकल पावर रहे. कास्ट एज अ प्रेशर ग्रुप. ठीक है, हम कास्ट बना के प्रेशर करते हैं दूसरे ग्रुप को, है ना, कि हमें ज्यादा पावर मिले. कास्ट एज एन आइडेंटिटी ग्रुप. सो इट विल एक्ट in relation with other group to get more and more secular benefits out of it. Caste as an associational group. ऑल इंडिया ब्राह्मण महासभा नाम सुने? क्या करती है? इंटरेस्ट को प्रमोट करती है एज अ ब्राह्मण के इंटरेस्ट को. तो ये सारे पार्ट हम लोग कल डिस्कस करेंगे. एंड अलोंग विद द कास्ट एज अ क्लास, कास्ट एज कास्ट, डिफरेंस बिटवीन कास्ट एंड क्लास, हाउ कास्ट इज ट्रांसक्राइबिंग टू क्लास, है ना. ये सारे पार्ट हम लोग कल डिस्कस करते हैं.